Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov is on tour throughout Africa this week. He's in Ethiopia today. He's already visited other countries, including Egypt and Uganda, as Russia tries to break diplomatic isolation over its war in Ukraine. Moscow is seeking support and anger due to food shortages caused by its siege of Ukrainian ports. With us now is Stephen Gruzd. He's the head of the Russia-Africa program at the Southern African Institute of International Affairs. Thanks for joining us, sir.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So, explain Russia's strategic involvement in Africa.
So, Russia has long had contact with Africa, of course, when there were liberation struggles in Southern Africa, in Namibia, South Africa, Angola, Mozambique. It supported those liberation movements. And then when the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia drew inward. It was very inward looking. It closed some of its embassies. But certainly since the rise of Putin, and particularly since the 2014 annexation of Crimea, Russia has been seeking friends, markets, business, and opportunities in the African continent.
And Stephen, Jericka, Duncan here, what sort of narrative is Russia putting out there when it comes to why they're there? And what are they offering? What is Russia offering the country that it's visiting? What is it? The countries, rather, in Africa that it's visiting?
So these are all countries that Russia already has pretty good relations with: Egypt, Republic of Congo, Uganda, and Ethiopia. But the narrative is very much that this war is because of NATO expansion, because of Russia's security needs that are being abrogated by Ukraine's posture, that it's a denazification invasion and to save the Russian speakers in Ukraine. And Russia is offering diplomatic support. Some of these countries that Lavrov has visited, the leaders are not all that democratic, including Museveni in Ethiopia, in Uganda, al-Sisi in Egypt. So there is a diplomatic imperative. Russia's not a big investor. It pales in significance to the US or Europe or China in Africa, but it is involved in very strategic sectors. So in Egypt, for example, they are just beginning to build a nuclear reactor with Russian expertise and Russian backing for that. It's involved in providing security in many of the countries that are troubled, like Mali, like Central African Republic. And Russia offers no questions asked about the democratic situation inside countries.
Yeah, it's a question that has been repeated over and over again in modern history, as you know, which is Africa finds itself struggling when Western nations go at each other. We see that now with many countries going through real dire straits because of the inability of countries that they rely on for grain imports to support them. And yet you have the Russians, and you mentioned some other players, including the Chinese, who have found a foothold in some countries in Africa, specifically some of those that have not necessarily democratic leaders, but even some that do. I mean, I know that, for example, when I was based in Nigeria, that the Nigerians had very good relationships with the Chinese, because the Chinese build roads and they help with infrastructure, and we're seeing the same with the Russians. So the question then becomes, how are these countries, is part of it buying favor for Russia's war in Ukraine? In other words, Sergey Lavrov shows up at your doorstep. He offers to help with whatever it is that you need to help to look a certain way for your people. And in return, whenever it comes to the war in Ukraine, whether it's at the UN or to the international community, you support Russia's efforts.
So I don't think Russia really had to do that, because if you look at the way that African countries voted at the UN when there was the resolution condemning Russia, roughly half of them supported that resolution, and roughly half of them opposed that resolution or abstained or weren't present at the vote. The only one that actually opposed was Eritrea. So it's not like Russia is starting from a clean slate and having to convince countries. I think some of them genuinely feel that it is in the right, that the West has had military adventures and invaded other countries like Afghanistan, like Iraq, like Libya, and few questions were asked. So the Russian narrative, the Russian perspective actually resonates with many African leaders, maybe not necessarily their populations, but the elites have had close relations with Russia for many years.
Do you see this trip as being used to also possibly garner support militarily in terms of people that would actually fight on behalf of the Russian military as a result of sort of these relationships that you know they've had?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it would go to that level. But who knows? It is possible. I mean, when the war first broke out, there were people to volunteer for both sides in Africa, and I think leaders were able to say maybe this isn't such a great idea. But certainly, it's also part of the propaganda war. You know, President Zelensky has been extremely efficient and effective in using social media and using the media to put Ukraine's case. And I think this trip is part of a reaction by Russia to gain back some of that ground. I mean, what better visuals are there than the Russian foreign minister shaking hands with and smiling with African presidents and prime ministers and foreign ministers? It's good press.
All right, Stephen Gruzd, thank you so much for your time today.